Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MetrObelisk Radio. Today we are taking a look at the first season of The Mandalorian. Now, you already read the title and probably already know where this is going. However, just because I stated that this is better than the sequel trilogy doesn't mean that this is the best thing since sliced bread. So, I'm not going to really dilly-dally any longer. Let's just get right into this. Let's start off by looking at the characters for The Mandalorian, and we're going to start off with the title character himself, The Mandalorian. Now, what was his name? It was referenced in like the 7th episode of the season, and I don't remember it, and really, his name is really inconsequential, because The Mandalorian is basically a man with no name character, a Clint Eastwood, fistful of dollars type of character, and then he's basically Han Solo, but just doesn't have a name, in the sense like Han Solo started out as a smuggler, but then as A New Hope went on, he was only in it for the money, but then he came to his senses and then fought against the Empire for the greater good. Well, the Mandalorian just starts off as a bounty hunter, basically just going to do a job, retrieving Baby Yoda, and then realizing like this remnant of the Empire, it probably wants to do some really fucked up shit with them, so he abandons the guild code, goes to save him, and basically all for the greater good. And he's so much like Han Solo that he even has his own ship, and it has its own name called the Razor Crest. Now, I can't give too much of an opinion on the Razor Crest because not enough of it was shown, but if the showrunners played their cards right, I'm not saying that the Razor Crest is going to be as big as the Millennium Falcon. The Millennium Falcon is too iconic, but they can make the Razor Crest its own character, and that can be the real power in Star Wars, is get like the iconic ships. The original trilogy had the Millennium Falcon. There really was no iconic ship in the prequel trilogy, and the sequel trilogy still had the Millennium Falcon. So the Razor Crest can be that nice deviation, but I'm not going to get a little too ahead of myself again. I can't give much of an opinion on the Razor Crest right now. I probably can give more of an opinion on it when Season 2 drops. And so moving on from this, we cannot talk The Mandalorian without bringing up Baby Yoda, or as Disney Lucasfilm like to call him, the child. If I were Disney Lucasfilm, I would just embrace the name Baby Yoda and just run with it, instead of like sticking to, no, he is called the child. Yeah, basically he became insanely popular after the series debut because, oh my god, it's Baby Yoda. And to be fair to the showrunners, not really much is known about him other than he's the same race as Yoda. And Yoda's race has always remained a mystery within Star Wars. Where did he come from? So there's a lot that you can play with in that regard. And we do learn that Baby Yoda is Force sensitive. However, given that he's just a baby, and here's where he deviates from the sequel trilogy. You know how Rey just used the Force, like, and just knew how to use it with really no training? Well, he has all of the raw power to use the Force, but he can only use it for a very, very short amount of time, and after he uses it, he immediately falls asleep. It immediately drains his energy. So anyone who tries to say that Baby Yoda is the get out of jail free card, not exactly, given that he can't really use his Force powers for very long, and he has to use them very, very sparingly. And like I said, there's a remnant of the Empire that wants him for some reason. What's the reason that this remnant of the Empire wants him? It's never really explained. I just assume it's because he's Force sensitive, but whatever. I don't know. It's never answered in the series. Then the third character we're going to talk about is Cara Dune. Now, she doesn't come in until the 4th episode, and she's a former shock trooper. I don't remember if she was Rebel or Imperial. I think she was Rebel, going on in the on Endor. Now, she's only in 3 episodes entirely. Like I said, she's in the 4th episode. That's when they go and visit that farm planet. Then she comes back in episodes 7 and 8, and that's really all we see of her in this season. I think she's going to serve a bigger role in season 2, but that remains to be seen. And the final character we're going to talk about is Greef Karga, a.k.a. Carl Weathers. Now, he's the head of the Bounty Hunting Guild. Originally, he does hunt the Mandalorian, but then tries to lure him back onto whatever home planet to try to steal Baby Yoda and deliver him back to the Empire. That way the Empire basically leaves him alone. So he starts off as Mando's boss, like I said, then wants to kill Mando for breaking the guild code and basically getting the Empire on their ass, to wanting to backstab him to please the Empire Remnant, to ultimately him turning good because he sensed that something was wrong in the state of Denmark, essentially. So, yeah, there's not really a whole lot of character development for Cara Dune or Greef Karga. It's more focused on just building up the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda. That's really what the season is, character development wise. Now let's jump from the character analysis to talking about the narrative. Now the narrative for the season is pretty decent, but my god, does it just drag on and on and on and on. And I'll give you a perfect example. Very first episode is just about getting Baby Yoda. That's where it ends. Episode 2 is getting off the desert planet and delivering Baby Yoda back to the Empire Remnant. Third episode is Baby Yoda goes to Empire Remnant, and then Mando senses something is wrong in the state of Denmark, and goes in, saves Baby Yoda, and flees, basically causing this big fight. And then episode 4 is going to the farm planet to hopefully leaving him there so that he could be safe. So right there, already half of your first season is just centered around capture Baby Yoda, save him, and put him into hiding. And they don't conclude that storyline at the end of episode 4. Then you get to episodes 5 and 6. That's the Gunslinger and the Prisoner. And to me, they just feel like filler episodes. Basically just to pad out the season because, we need it. I don't know if Disney mandated 8 episodes for this season, but it just feels like that they were just shoehorned in there. You honestly could skip episodes 5 and 6 and you wouldn't really miss anything. And then you have episode 7 where, where he goes back and gets Cara Dune back from episode 4, who, she stays on that farm planet, but then goes with them back to his, home planet where he starts off on. Basically, that Greef Karga basically says, that the Empire is on his ass. And if, Mandalorian brings back Baby Yoda, they'll fight the Empire, use Baby Yoda as bait, and everyone can go on about their lives. And then episode 8 basically concludes the whole thing. Yeah, there's basically only 8 episodes for this season, and already half of it was wasted on the Baby Yoda shit that wasn't even concluded. But I do like how the season ends because it does tease a quote-unquote what is to come for season 2 by showing, Moff Gideon. That's played by Giancarlo Esposito. And for those that don't immediately recognize the name, you might remember him as Gus Fring from Breaking Bad. Now, I feel that he's gonna probably serve a bigger role in season 2. That's why I didn't bring him up under the character analysis, because there really was no point, because he's only in episodes 7 and 8. But at the end of the 8th episode, we see him use the Darksaber. And for those that don't know what the Darksaber is, that is a direct reference to Star Wars Rebels. That was the weapon that Sabine used. And Sabine is yet another Mandalorian. So that lit up the internet like fucking wildfire with, is Sabine going to be in Mandalorian season 2? Well, we know that Ahsoka Tano is already going to be in season 2. And the last time that we saw Sabine in Rebels is that her and Ahsoka Tano were going off together. So it's really not that far of a stretch, but I'm not gonna sit here and predict all that and add into the hype. We're just gonna have to wait for season 2 and see. Oh, also, the Mandalorian gets his mission with Baby Yoda during the final episode. Basically, he is to either deliver Baby Yoda back to his race of people, or he is to deliver him to someone who can train him in the Force powers. And this is where we learn like the Mandalorians and the Jedi basically do not get along. So he has to deliver Baby Yoda to enemy sorcerers. And before I move on from the narrative analysis, I caught this little reference in the very first episode. Life Day. For anyone that remembers the Star Wars Holiday Special, Life Day was the made-up holiday that they celebrated in said special. Instead of Christmas or Kwanzaa or a real-world holiday, it was Life Day. So funny how they will reference the Star Wars Holiday Special with characters like Boba Fett, and now you have this in The Mandalorian, yet Disney and Lucasfilm refuse to re-release the Holiday Special. So anyone who's going to hear anyone who's going to hear, well, I was hoping to make it to Life Day before I got captured, that reference is going to go right over that person's head. Now, my main criticism for the series as a whole is I can't stand this in the beginning when they do like the whole previously on The Mandalorian. I'm sorry, but in my opinion, you need to cut that shit out. It adds nothing but basically just padding for time. So instead of an episode being, 38 minutes, we hit 40. Ooh, The Mandalorian is not Survivor. The Mandalorian isn't even Yu-Gi-Oh! Where, Yu-Gi-Oh! Those seasons were like 50 to 52 episodes long, so episode 48 might be referencing something from episode 14. So at least in a show like Yu-Gi-Oh! It makes sense, but The Mandalorian's only 8 episodes long. I think my memory is gonna help, put the pieces together. Unless if you skipped an episode, trust the audience to remember where you are at the point in your story. You don't need to constantly bash them over the head with previously on The Mandalorian, in case if you forgot what happened either last week or just 2 seconds ago, depending on when you watched it. If you sat down and binged it all at once like I did, I binged the entire series in like 2 days. 4 episodes the first day, the last 4 episodes on the second day. So it really wasn't that long. But even if this was airing weekly, my memory is not that bad. So I would have had no problem putting 2 and 2 together. And I assume the vast majority of you listening to it are the exact same way. Where your memory is pretty good. If you really like a show, you don't need to constantly be beaten over the head with what happened previously. Now, in my opinion, this could have been a 6-episode season. Cut out the gunslinger and the prisoner, because they're just filler content. Have season 1 of The Mandalorian be a setup season for the rest of the series. And if you needed to have 16 episodes by the end of season 2, then just have season 2 be 10 episodes where you have the main narrative, and then you can start introducing some of these side stories, but at least get that foundation laid first. Don't try to build upon a shaky foundation. Now, I had a lot of criticisms for this season narratively, but you know what I always say? Nothing is ever beyond redemption, and that's not even the right word. That's not the right word to say. I don't think anything is destroyed beyond redemption. And season 2 can really save this show as long as they, build upon that firm foundation that's now been laid by this season. And I would say that this season, this show in particular, The Mandalorian, really benefited from the fact that the sequel trilogy was just so shitty from both a narrative perspective and even if you look at it as character development. This show coasted on the fact, hey, at least we're better than episodes 7, 8, 9, and okay, that was more than enough to get the first season, an audience, but season 2 cannot coast off of that same thing. You can't just go, hey guys, at least it's better than the sequel trilogy, right? Because then the vast majority of people are going to see through for what it is, and they're going to see it as just a bunch of bullshit Disney marketing, blah, 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 and you're not going to see a lot of people stick around for a season 3. Now, personally, I am really holding out hope that season 2 will be good, and if it's not, I'll be the first person to criticize it and basically call The Mandalorian for what it is. And this is the very first thing under the Disney Star Wars banner, under, Disney Lucasfilm, that I am genuinely excited for. Yes, I had a lot of criticisms, but a lot of the criticisms are levied at mostly because it's the first season. And I'll give you guys a perfect example. One of my all-time favorite sitcoms was Seinfeld. And if you remember Seinfeld, those first 2 or 3 seasons were pretty rough. It really didn't start getting good until about mid to late season 3, and then it just took off like a rocket. So I'm willing to give The Mandalorian season 2 a shot just to see where they go from season 1 at this point. And before I drag this on for any longer than it needs to be, rather than beating a dead horse, I'm going to end it right here. So if you guys want to follow me, follow the blog, subscribe to the RSS feed on there. That is MetrObeliskradio.blogspot.com. If you want to follow me on a social media platform, follow me on Twitter. I am at MetrObelisk. And subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the BitChute channel, subscribe to Odyssey, or wherever you're seeing this video if you enjoy the content. It's a small click for you, but for a very small channel like mine, it does help get my content pushed out to more people. You know, also like, share, do all that, only if you want to, only if you genuinely enjoy the content. And that's going to do it for my Season 1 review of The Mandalorian. I am planning on doing a Season 2 review after that is all said and done. So, thanks for watching, guys, and I will see you next time.